morning. My name is Zane Abbott. This is the first time I feel like I'm going to butcher somebody else's name, so I'll try not to. I'm Vice President, General Manager for Accenture Link for our civilian law enforcement practice. And today I have the honor and pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, James Gfrerer. Hopefully I didn't stress too much.
Perfect, yeah, perfect.
Assistant Secretary for Information Technology and CIO for Office of Information Technology Department Department of Veterans Affairs. James Gfrerer was nominated by President Donald Trump to serve as the Assistant Secretary for Information Technology and CIO and was confirmed by the United States Senate in January of 2019. As Assistant Secretary, he leads a team of more than 8,000 employees and 8,000 contractors in the Office of Information Technology to deliver technologies and services that improve the veteran experience. Prior to joining VA, Mr. Gfrerer was an executive director with a Big Four professional services firm for over 3 years. As a leader in the firm's advisory and cybersecurity practices, he and his team assisted commercial sector clients in business process optimization, risk management, cyber risk transformation, and managed services outsourcing. Ahead of his commercial sector tenure, Mr. Gfrerer was an active duty Marine Corps officer in the First Service, rising to the ranks of colonel. Throughout his 28 years of service, his assignments included specialties such as infantry, IT, training, and cybersecurity. Please help me welcome James Gfrerer to the stage.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. Get the right version here. That would help. There's only like 5 versions of the remarks up here. Well, good morning, everyone. As Zane mentioned, I'm with the Office of Information and Technology at the Veterans Affairs. First off, I'd like to thank the IAC staff for arranging this great program and working closely with our Office of Information and Technology to coordinate a well-planned and hopefully well-orchestrated event. Up front, I'll talk for probably about 15 to 20 minutes, and I think really what you came to hear was for us to get into the panel. I'm really excited about our panelists, and I'm really excited at the daunting challenge of somehow navigating 7 of us through a discussion period, but I think we'll get there. But the American Council for Technology and Industry Advisory Council is exactly the kind of public-private partnership we need to improve government by leveraging information technology. Forums like this, where government and industry exchange information and discuss technology issues, are critical to our success. A little bit about me, and probably what Zane didn't mention is I'm not only the CIO at VA, but I have to be careful which term I use. You know, is it eating your own dog food? Is it drinking your own champagne? But whichever one you choose, I am a patient within the Veterans Health Administration, within the VH system. I am within the Veterans Benefits Administration architecture. And as I tell Undersecretary Reeves, who's our head of Memorial Affairs, the only one I'm not trying to join is the National Cemetery Administration. But as he quickly comes back every time we joke about this and catch glances across the room, he goes, "Don't worry, sooner or later we're going to get you." But in all seriousness, across those 3 very differential enterprises is about delivering world-class service to our veterans, the 22+ million living veterans and their family members that are deserving of those benefits. But I think, as some of you have heard, while I am a veteran and while I support veterans, I think our first imperative within the Office of Information Technology is to support the business. And I think you're going to hear that in the panel too. We're going to talk about business transformation and how IT enables that, particularly with respect to healthcare innovation. I've only been the CIO a short time, and I can tell you that last night I came back in late from a 2-day workshop with our large electronic health record vendor with Cerner in Kansas City. There was 500 clinicians from across the VA enterprise that were there for a workshop. And again, I couldn't be prouder to be a part of that. As those of you that have ever done an electronic health record migration or large-scale transformation know, It's like the joke from the movie Mission Impossible. They said, we don't call it mission hard, we call it mission impossible, because there's a lot that's attended to it. But I couldn't be prouder of our combined team and our various partners with how we're pursuing that. And maybe that will come up in the panel a little bit. For those of you that don't know, VA is the second largest federal agency and the largest integrated health provider in the United States. We support over 20 million veterans across those 3 business lines that I referenced earlier. And I can tell you from Secretary Wilkie on down, we have a mission to serve our veterans and their families. You know, I talk within our own workforce, but I can tell you without a doubt, and again, I see some people that have a seasoned status in this room, right? You've been around quite a while. It's like Simon Sinek says, you know, you're looking for your why. There is not one person that walks into VA central office or anywhere in the VA enterprise on any given day that doesn't know what their why is. It is ingrained in our culture. For today, most people don't associate innovation with large federal agencies, but I think for many of you in this room, you have a healthy respect for the history of innovation that is resident within VA. And Michael Kinley and the Office of Innovation within our Office of Enterprise Integration, they really make that and drive that for us across the business. But let me talk about, inside of that history, let me talk about some things that we're doing presently that I think will resonate with this crowd. First, we are working around our application programming interface strategy. My Chief Technology Officer, Charles Worthington, was with me this past week. We have a strategy around APIs. We are rolling that out, and it's kind of a rolling success. Some of you have seen some of those examples where we've partnered with Lighthouse around VA's API management platform. And if you haven't gone to that site and checked out your opportunity to contribute, I encourage you to do so. The purpose of the Lighthouse is to develop an API platform on par with those of private sector companies. As many of you know, we have a very dated legacy system that we are modernizing as rapidly as we can. But on top of that legacy system, we believe that the transition and the key to our success is this API strategy. One recent innovation in this area is around the partnership with Apple to allow veterans to access their healthcare information. And I can tell you that we are in discussions with other vendors, and there's more to come. But even outside of just the healthcare applications, there are applications around veterans benefits, facilities locators, and vet identification. And I can tell you that we want to partner more with the rest of the community. So again, if you haven't gone to the developer.va.gov site, please do so. We want to expand. Those examples I just used are merely the base, and there's a really bright future with respect to apps, app development, and helping veterans and others access our legacy system. I'd like to next shift to artificial intelligence. Obviously with AI, the promise and the value is analyzing massive amounts of data from hundreds and even thousands of separate sources to improve care for veterans. These efforts will improve the lives and health outcomes of our nation's veterans. Some of the current examples include our Million Veteran Program. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that, we have a huge data set, again, as the name implies, around 1 million+ veterans, to analyze their data, to mine it, and look for, within that large database of genetic, military exposure, lifestyle, and health information. Researchers will hope to use this information to study diseases like diabetes, cancer, and other military service-related illnesses and post-traumatic stress disorder. Data analytics are helping VA better understand veterans' unique health challenges and information that, again, leads to better services and health outcomes. ReachVet is yet another example of artificial intelligence. ReachVet is recovery, engagement, and coordination for health, veterans enhanced treatment. Using a new predictive model, ReachVet analyzes existing data from veterans' health records to identify those at a statistically elevated risk for suicide, hospitalization, illness, and other adverse outcomes. Once a veteran is identified, his or her VA mental health or primary care provider reaches out to check on the veteran's well-being, review their condition and treatment plans to determine if enhanced care is needed. EHR modernization, and I mentioned this earlier. So we are in the middle of a large-scale 10-year modernization effort. VA and its partners formed 2 years ago the Office of Electronic Health Record Modernization. As you know, the contract was signed with Cerner Millennium, with the company Cerner around the Millennium solution to adopt a similar platform and solution set as the Department of Defense. And I think, again, that is one of the transformational things that you'll see around technology and customer service, right, is we are kind of in a mentality. When I transitioned, when I retired from the service and had to apply like most veterans, it's an application, it's an affirmative process, whereas we are re-engineering, we're on these common data sets now to have more of a pull architecture around that data and around the benefits that will flow from that in the future. So within the next several years, it will be a very different customer experience for the veteran as she or he transitions. Around the electronic health record modernization, we're improving interoperability, access to care, and increased ROI. We're focused on preparing the infrastructure. I can tell you right now that I've been out to the initial operating capability sites in the Northwest as they begin to go live March of next year. And my director of IT operations and the rest of his team is very laser focused on the infrastructure upgrades that are necessary to host that platform. When fully operational, the Cerner Millennium system will be the single source of veteran health information for patient and providers. And it will be a catalyst for fundamental change in terms of how VA delivers veteran-focused care. And again, to emphasize, it really is about drawing across that entire DoD and VA enterprise, not only interoperability with across that enterprise, but as you've also seen on Mission Act, I'll talk about here next, is with community care. And as you know, in June of this year, the Mission Act will be integrated. Mission, as you know, stands for Maintaining Systems and Strengthening Integrated Outside Networks. The Mission Act is legislation that provides veterans the option of community care when the VA can't meet their needs. And those needs are determined in terms of wait times, availability of services, and other criteria. To determine who's eligible for community care, VA has developed an integrated tool to support decision making. You probably heard a little bit about it. The decision support tool integrates information across several legacy systems, and it allows the clinician and the veteran to have a conversation around those criteria, incorporate the best medical interest of the veteran, and determine whether the veteran will eventually be referred to care in the community or remain within the VA system. And the Office of Information Technology is committed to supporting this effort because it makes convenient and timely care more accessible for our veterans. Next topic I'd like to address with you around innovation is telehealth. We have an imperative to provide care to our veterans even if they aren't located near a veteran medical center. Calendar year 2018 saw 1 million video telehealth visits provided to veterans. In the past fiscal year, 782,000, or 13% of the overall VHA population, received care via at least one telehealth occurrence. VA has partnered with T-Mobile and Verizon to allow veterans to access telehealth without incurring data overages. With 45% of our veterans living in rural areas, access to telehealth is key for proper care. At the outset of this past fiscal year, only 45% of VHA's 1,005 points of presence could support an anywhere-to-anywhere connection. As of March of this year, that is up to 52%. By the end of this fiscal year, we expect and have a goal of 72% of VHA locations, so that's one of our 174 clinics or 1,200 plus community-based outcare clinics, to have that capability. So within a little over 2 years, it's almost doubling that capacity. Our health APIs support the telehealth program and improve veteran access to care. Let me talk a little bit about our modernization efforts to support all that, because as you know, programs like telehealth and the others are very bandwidth and resource hungry. VA is modeling a private sector approach around cloud migration using current COTS systems that are scalable and agile. We're moving all of our current and new applications to the cloud, and the target is 350 applications, which is roughly half of our portfolio, will be moved to the cloud by 2024. Cloud-based systems allow veterans to access their information and services quickly and efficiently. I'll tell you one anecdotal story. One of our staff mentioned to me that before Hurricane Harvey, and again, this is more of a VBA example, Veterans Benefits, but when Hurricane Harvey hit in the past year, we had just migrated some of the Veterans Benefits resources and materials into the cloud, and when all of those regional offices and sub-offices were shut down, every one of those rating specialists and folks in Veterans Benefits Affairs was able to continue their work without the facility being in operation. So again, when you look at the backlog and the ability to continue operations and rating schedules and processing claims, again, that's a very important business outcome that flows from that. Our digital transformation strategy is really focused around the following efforts. It's driven by the Secretary's priorities, and I think Secretary Wilkie has been very clear, certainly in the building and outside the building, what those are. It's about adopting a business framework that revolves around customer-driven requirements. I don't ever have to wonder when I'm dealing with each of the three administrations and within the corporate portfolio if they are focused on the veterans' needs and the veterans' requirements. They absolutely are. It defines authoritative data sources and improves data-driven decision-making. It also provides veteran data and enhances VA security. As I mentioned, it leverages cloud, digital platforms, and infrastructure to drive that change. And it increases access, engagement, and interoperability across the technologies, the emerging technologies that I just highlighted, and more. VA is committed to providing veterans the most modern tool and services for their benefits and health care, just like they expect in the private sector. We are looking to the commercial health systems for best practices that we can learn from, and I can tell you from my time in Kansas City this past week, that is front and center in all the conversations. As those clinicians are talking about their workflows, it's not merely about taking the current infrastructure and workflows around Vista and moving them to another platform. It's what are best practices in the commercial space and what can the technology do to improve that. We want to be able to provide the best possible service to our veterans, whether they choose to receive care at the VA Medical Center or through community care. And again, kind of parenthetically, I know the Health Information Exchange and a number of you this past late January, early February were met in HIMSS in Orlando. And VA recognizes that it is a leader in the health information exchange business, certainly around the SMART and FHIR standards.
Thank you.
I'm excited to continue the conversation about health innovation and modernization at the panel initially following this keynote. And just a little foreshadowing here. So we'll have 6 industry leaders up here to discuss the latest innovation. We're going to examine trends. We'll speculate about the opportunities and technology that may provide in this coming decade, and how it may change business processes or transform the business as a whole. To do that, we're going to discuss IT as a critical enabler of that business transformation, but also change management. Too often, transformation is viewed as only one of 2 outcomes, either business success or IT failure. And as we'll talk about on the panel, the folks here will talk about how IT, as a critical enabler, partners with the business to make sure there's only one outcome, business success. So in closing, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I look forward to, we'll host the panel here shortly, and we'll leave ample time for questions. Thank you very much.